So I haven't made a video in quite some time. For main reason being I haven't felt the need to. I have a blog that I really enjoy writing on when I'm inspired to. And I only really have turned to the video when I've been truly moved by something, a subject, or just felt like a video was more appropriate for what I was talking about. So that you could see my sincerity, I guess, more than anything. And today I'm moved to talk about something. And that thing is the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the States, in the United States of America. I knew it was coming. I think anyone who was surprised by the decision of the Supreme Court yesterday, well, they haven't been paying attention, because it wasn't a surprise. We knew it was coming. We knew as soon as Trump got into power, as soon as the Republicans bought into his Trumpism, as soon as he was able to get his own judges on the Supreme Court, three judges on the Supreme Court, we knew it was coming. One of those judges is Brett Kavanaugh, the guy who assaulted a woman, at least one woman, in his younger days. And despite huge amounts of evidence to suggest that he was a piece of scum, he still got nominated to the Supreme Court. Real shocker that he would be anti-abortion, which isn't about abortion. Let's be very clear about this. Being anti-abortion isn't about the life of a fetus or some cells in the early stages of development. It is not about the Christianity, the religion at all. Being anti-abortion is actually about being anti-female, being anti-women, anti-anyone with a uterus. It is about ensuring that women stay in their place and that men can continue to control things. Do not mistake any of this for anything other than misogyny and an opportunity to take women away. Keep us away, keep us quiet, keep us subdued, keep us down. You overturn abortion, you are forcing women who are not the only people involved in the conception of a child. Men are involved. We require sperm still to this day. And the people who are getting abortions are not getting abortions without having had that sperm from a man put inside them. So it takes two of us, but it's the woman that is being forced to deal with the consequences. This is a country that does not provide universal healthcare. It is not like the NHS. You have to pay for everything, and it costs a fortune to give birth and to raise a child. It costs a fortune to raise a child in this country where we have universal healthcare. What the hell are we doing in a place like America, which is a Western, supposedly developed and modern nation, and they don't have a social healthcare plan? It's absolutely insane to me. I do not understand. But that is the situation. So these women are being forced into this role of motherhood, whether it be one that is just an unwanted pregnancy, which is a valid decision. Just let's be very clear. There are all sorts of reasons why someone might not want to have a child, and that is okay because it is their choice. It is their choice and nobody else's. And it might be that there is a medical reason why the child cannot be carried to term, why the quality of life of the child, if born, would not be great, if the carrying the child to term would actually cause the woman significant health damage and possibly kill them, which is a thing that is possible. Women, many women, I do not know the statistics offhand, but many women have really difficult pregnancies. They have severe health issues throughout their pregnancies, and sometimes abortion is the only safe and viable option. And that has been taken away by women across the United States today. 25 states we know are now going to use this as an opportunity to make abortion illegal. That is going to happen. And it is going to happen very quickly. And that is horrendous. And the joke of it all is that the majority of Americans are for abortions and have no problem with abortions. What people don't like is the idea of late-term abortions, but such a very small, very insignificant proportion of abortions are late-term abortions. Most abortions happen before 20 weeks. And when I say most, I'm talking 99%, 98% of abortions happen before 20 weeks. These are not late-term abortions that you're preventing. You are preventing safe and healthy abortions for people who need them and want them, and you are controlling women. And do you know what happens if you force a woman to give birth? Is first of all, you traumatize that woman for life. That is a hugely traumatic thing to go through when you don't want the outcome. You are forcing a woman to have to give up that child if they are not able to look after that child. They might have to put that child up for adoption, which is also hugely traumatic, even if you knew going into labour that you were planning to put your child up for abortion. When you have that child, that wrench of having that child taken away is going to be traumatic, and there is nothing you can say to change that. That is just a horrific thing that happens. That cutting of the cord is not just the physical act of cutting an umbilical cord. There is an emotional attachment that is undeniable and is gone and separated, and that is a horrific thing. You are signing a woman up to make that decision or choose to raise the child when they may not be economically able to provide for that child, which forces them into jobs that they can't do, being overworked, being stressed, being tired, not being able to actually be emotionally present for the child, not being able to support the child in other ways, only financially. They're not going to be able to create a safe family environment for that child. And it has been proven that those that are born into a home where they are not actually wanted, they are more likely to turn out to be poor themselves, to be unhappy, to potentially be criminals. They're just more likely. It doesn't mean it will happen, but they're just a greater chance of them being criminals. So then that pushes that child, and it affects a whole other generation of misery. And all of that could have been avoided. And there is proof that this is true because when abortion was made legal in the 70s, we saw within the sort of 20 years from that point onwards to 20 years later, the amount of crime had decreased because the women who would have been forced into having unwanted pregnancies and have unwanted babies that then either lived in unhappy households or went into the system, and we all know that that's a train wreck. Those children who would have been 20 at that point didn't exist anymore because they'd been aborted. They didn't exist, and they weren't caught, and they weren't doing crime. And there is statistical evidence that shows the links between those things, and that is important. That is fucking important. But America doesn't care about that because their prisons are profitable. They make money from their prisons, so they don't care if there's more people to put in prison. They're making money from it. It's free slave labour. It's modern slavery. And of course, this hugely impacts the people of colour of all ranges, particularly black women who get pregnant. They are, first of all, more likely to have an unwanted pregnancy for all sorts of reasons. And let's not go down that road because that can take us on a whole other tangent of hypocrisy and unjustness and racism and hatred. And I don't have time to do that tonight, but I could talk for a long time on that. But they are more likely to have unwanted pregnancies. They're more likely to have maternal death, a higher maternal death rate. They are more likely to have issues during their pregnancy. They're more likely to live in a poverty or poverty-like state, and therefore their children are also more likely to have greater challenges in life, which is more likely to lead them towards crime, which means they are more likely to end up in prison. And given what we know about America and black people and criminal black people, we know that they basically don't stand a fucking chance at that point. They are going to prison if they're lucky. Otherwise, they are going to be at the wrong end of a gun. Because in the same week that we made abortion, in the same week that we overturned Roe v. Wade, America also made it easier to carry a gun in the state of New York. So they're doing really well. They really care about their people. It's not about money. It couldn't possibly be about money, getting the religious right and getting the gun lobby on your side. It couldn't possibly be about those two things, could it? Yes, of course it could. Yes, of course it could. And it keeps women in their place so they can't go to work. They can't get the high-flying jobs. They can't go to school. They can't get educated. Because they're at home looking after the child they didn't want and doing shitty jobs just to pay for the child that they didn't want. And having been forced to stay connected to the man that abused them, the man that raped them, because they are forever linked to them because of this child. They might have ongoing healthcare issues for the rest of their lives, not just for themselves, but for their child because of this forced pregnancy. And they will get no help. They will get zero help, or basically the bare minimum of help in their lifetime, because America's welfare system is even worse than ours. And this is what has happened, and this is what this means. This is what this judgment means. This lack of judgment means. It is horrendous, and I am so angry, and don't for a second think that this can't happen here. We may not have the religious right here like they do in America. We may not have that loud, vocal, religious right going on here that the politicians can hide behind as their reasoning for doing things. But we do have people in this country in power who do not care about women and women's rights and women's health. It was not that long ago that Northern Ireland were unable to provide abortions. That is a relatively new thing that happened, to get abortion in Northern Ireland. This is not a finished fight here in the UK. It is not finished. We have to keep protecting our rights constantly, and we have to stand up and support women and those with uteruses around the world and say, you have a right to decide what you do with your body. No one can tell you what you can do with it. No one has a right to legislate against you. You are in control of your body. We have had centuries of being used and abused and taken advantage of and kept down, and we will not do it anymore. We will not go backwards. I refuse. I refuse to let this judgment of the Supreme Court be the reason that the entire world starts moving backwards to a time that they call great that was not great. It was great for white men. It was not great for anybody else. And I won't let it happen. I brought my kids into a world that I thought was moving forward. And I have seen since having children that in fact we're moving backwards quite a long way. And I can't express the guilt I feel for bringing my kids into a world that I am truly ashamed of. There was a point in my life where I thought that I would one day end up living in America. I really think the country, when you take away all the politics, I think the country is a lovely country. It has some beautiful places. You know, the places that you've heard of, like the Grand Canyon, stunning. Death Valley, stunning, despite the name. North Carolina, Outer Banks, it's just beautiful. Niagara Falls, beautiful. But then there are places that you haven't heard of, like Scottsdale, Arizona. It's a great little town. It's lovely. I thought that I could see myself ending up there one day. And over the past 6-7 years, that has become very evident that I will never be able to live there, because they're not going to move towards a universal healthcare system. They're just not. They haven't got it in them. They're not charitable. They don't care about anyone. They only care about themselves. They are going to continue allowing guns in everybody's homes. They are not going to do anything about these school shootings. They don't care enough. There's not enough money in protecting children. There's a lot of money in letting people carry guns. And now they've overturned Roe v. Wade, and I have 2 children with uteruses, and the idea that they would not be able to decide what they did with their bodies if they ever got pregnant, or, to be honest, what any of my children do with their bodies at any time, having that legislated against, really, it concerns me and it makes me angry, and I could never live there. It is not, there is no American dream that they always try and sell you. There's no American dream, it's an American nightmare. And I am so sorry for all the women in America, but particularly the ones in the states that we know will now make abortion illegal. I'm so sorry. And if there's anything I can do, if you have the means to travel to England, although if you had those means, I assume you would just go to the state nearby that still has safe abortions. But if that isn't an option, and for some reason travelling to the UK is an option for you, we will house you, we will give you what you need to get the procedure that you need done safely. And I can only hope that the next step is not making contraception illegal and not making same-sex marriage illegal, because for God's sake, how many times do we have to fight this fight? Find something else. Just find something else to take away, to not. Just find something else. Like, leave us alone. How about solving actual problems? Okay, well that's all I wanted to say. I mean, I could talk for hours on it and go into all the detail, but I'm just really upset. And I follow quite a lot of Americans on Instagram, and I've been seeing their posts today, and it has just made me more and more angry and upset for them. And I just hope that I don't even know what I hope. I hope they're okay. I hope that they will find support if and when they need it. And yeah, that's it. Rant done for now. Sure, I'll have more to rant about another day. Okay. Bye.